Hi everyone, welcome back to the Honey Reads. My name is Mary if you're new here, and today I want to talk about the 10 books that I have on my Spring TBR. I love making TBRs for the different seasons, especially because in Canada we experience all different 4 seasons and all the beauty that they have in each one of them, and so many books embody a different type of season in the feeling and the things that they talk about. And so I put together a list of 10 books that I would love to read this spring that I feel like embody what spring feels like. Warmer weather, you know, going on more adventures, being out in nature, seeing nature blossom again. And I feel like all of these books embody that just a little bit for me. Or at least I think they do because I haven't read any of them. But it's a mix of classics, middle grade, fantasy, and romance. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first section of books that I want to talk about are classics. So I have 4 classics that I want to read this March. Most of them are pretty approachable except for one is pretty big, and that one is George Eliot's Middlemarch. When I hauled this book, I think last month, I talked about how I've always wanted to read Middlemarch, but it's just so daunting to me, but I've only heard amazing things about it. And I've heard that spring is a really great time to read this book. So I'm looking forward to figuring out why. Yeah, just a wonderful classic, and I really do hope that I get to it in the springtime. The next book I have is Little Woman by Louisa May Alcott. So this one is also another classic that I believe is good to read in spring. I don't know so much about every single one of these books on this list because I don't really like going into books knowing everything about them, but I have had Little Woman on my TBR for many years, so I will most definitely be reading this month because I do have it on a special video that is coming soon, like next week. So I haven't started it yet, but I will be picking it up in the next week or so. The next book I have is a shorter classic, and that is A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. So this one I've heard that you can read in both fall and springtime, but I've heard that there's a lot of talk about nature in this book, and so I'm really looking forward to picking it up. I did try picking this up about like a year and a half ago, but I was just so busy at that time that it wasn't the greatest time to pick it up. As you can see, I have a bookmark here on page 40. I don't remember anything about this book. It was just such a long time ago, so I'm looking forward to restarting and hopefully reading this and finishing it this time. Last classic I have is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I don't know why, but I feel like I have been afraid of reading Pride and Prejudice because, again, it's one of those classics that everyone loves. And I think like a lot of beginners tend to reach for Pride and Prejudice just because everyone talks about it. But I know that there is romance in this, and I feel like springtime is like the perfect, I mean, all seasons are perfect for romance, but especially like spring when the warmer weather comes, there's just something about starting romances that I love. But yeah, I've heard that the romance in this book is amazing, so I'm really looking forward to it. Those are the 4 classics that I want to read. Let me know which one I should start with. I mean, other than Little Women, because I will be starting that this week. But out of these 3, Pride and Prejudice, A Room with a View, and Middlemarch, which ones should I start with? And why? The next section of books that I have in this TBR list is middle grade or young adult. And I have 2 books in this kind of genre. And the first one is Anne of Avonlea. Avonlea? I think it's Avonlea by Ella Montgomery. So this is the second book in the Anne of Green Gables series. I loved Anne of Green Gables when I read it so much. I gave it a 5 stars. I cried reading that book, and then I binge watched Anne with an E on Netflix. I am still so sad that that series like got canceled. But this one I also tried picking up right after reading Anne of Green Gables, but that book gave me such a book hangover that I could not continue. So I really do want to finish the series. I do have all the books in the series. I have this Tundra collection, and it's so beautiful when it's like all put together. I have it on this shelf. You just can't see it, but I'm so looking forward to getting back into this world. It's a masterpiece. And the second book that I have in the middle grade genre for my spring TBR is The Secret Garden. I mean, first of all, look at this edition. Beautiful. But I have never read The Secret Garden that I could remember. I may have read it growing up, I just don't really remember. But I have wanted to read this for so many years, and I got these editions, like this Puffin's Classics editions, like 2 years ago, and I haven't picked it up, and I don't know why. So I'm hoping this will push me to read this. I mean, it's a middle grade. I love middle grades. I think they're so fun to get into such a nice, fun world. And I mean, it is pretty long for a middle grade, but I'm sure it will fly by once I do get into it. So, and I mean, again, look at this cover. I can just stare at it all day. Those are my two middle grade books that I want to read this spring. The next section or genre for my spring TBR is fantasy. I've really been getting into fantasy in the past like 6 months, and I've really been enjoying getting into this genre. When I first started reading like a lot in middle school, I loved fantasy, and then I had a period where I just was not reading a lot. Like in high school, going into college, I would read maybe like 5 books a year, 10 books, but not really much. And then romance got me really back into reading, and classics. And now I'm, you know, going and experimenting with different genres, and fantasy is one of them again. So I'm really looking forward to these 2 books that I have for my spring TBR. The first book, I'm kind of a little ashamed to say I never read, and I actually tried watching the movie twice and fell asleep both times. So let's hope I don't fall asleep reading this book. It is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I haven't read this book. It is just one of those books that everyone has read, and everyone, I mean, mostly everyone has loved. I know I have some people that didn't love The Hobbit, but I do want to get into the Lord of the Rings trilogy and, you know, that whole world, and I feel like The Hobbit is the best place to start. And look, I'm pretty sure this is my brother's copy. I've had this for probably more than 10 years, and I haven't picked it up, so yeah. I don't know what like has made me not pick it up. It is pretty short too, especially for a fantasy, but we will read this spring. And then the second book I have in the fantasy genre, this could also be a YA, but I included it in this, I guess, genre breakdown, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So I bit the bullet last month and bought this book. I was hesitant to pick it up because I see so many mixed reviews online, but with a lot of people that I do trust the reviews and I have similar tastes, really enjoyed this book, so I decided to give it a chance. And there is something about like YA fantasy that is also so fun, so I'm really looking forward to this. And I heard it's spring is a good time to read it, but I don't know, I guess we'll see. But I know The Hobbit for sure, spring is a good time because there's just so much nature in The Hobbit, at least from what I remember from the movie. So yeah, these 2 I'm really looking forward to reading this spring. And the last category of books that I want to read for spring are romances, and I actually do not own a copy of these 2 books. The first one actually hasn't been released yet. It is being released this month in April, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I'm really looking forward to reading this book. I cannot wait to get my hands on it when it comes out. But I mean, Emily Henry is just such a great author. I loved all of her books, and I will definitely be picking it up once it is released at the end of this month. So for sure I can finish it within spring. If not, it will be a summer read. But usually once Emily Henry comes out with a new book, I read it right away. So I don't have many doubts that I won't get to it this spring. Then the last book in my TBR list and in the romance category is Talia Hibbert's new book, Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute, I'm pretty sure is the title. I love Talia Hibbert. I've loved all of her books, and I'm so looking forward to starting a new series by her. At least I'm hoping it's a series. I don't know if it is actually, but I believe it came out this year. I have it on hold on Libby, so I will be reading the ebook, and I'm sure I will be buying a copy of it. I have copies of several of her books. But if I do love it, I will most definitely be buying myself a copy, but I cannot wait to start that book. I just love Talia Hibbert's writing, her stories, and I think that she's a really fantastic romance writer and just writer in general. So those are all 10 books that I want to read this spring. I am so excited about this list. It's just also making me so excited that the weather is getting warmer, that we're approaching summer, and I just love so many things about warmer weather and all of the fun things that me and my friends and family get to do in the warmer weather months. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any suggestions of spring books that I can add to my TBR this year or maybe next year. Any books that you feel like embodies spring and warmer weather and blossoming and all of those things. And let me know if you have any of your own books that you want to read this spring. Thank you for watching and spending some time with me today. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful spring, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading!